Good evening. Welcome to 40 Hour. I am Glendora Lashley. On June 8th, the THA announced some changes to the Unemployment Relief Program, URP. And this evening, we're going to be discussing the future of URP, or more so, a futuristic URP. And in studio with me this evening, we have Assemblyman Joel Notzi Sampson, the Assistant Secretary in the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development. And we also have his Technical and Engineering Advisor in that division, Dr. Ellis Burris. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, good evening.
All right, so hot off the press, Assemblyman, on June 8th, you took Tobago by storm. According to what we saw, you said that you had been clamoring, making representation to the Executive Council so that we can have some changes to the unemployment relief program. All right, and Dr. Burris, who was on within recent times, shared a little bit more in terms of the intended changes for the long term that you guys hope to see. All right, so this evening what we're going to do is have a conversation around those changes, because all of us heard about, you know, the big pay increase. That's what people that's what people were focusing on. I don't think that anybody is upset that the lower paid employees in Tobago has gotten an increase, but of course there's some, you know, with everything there would be some sort of reaction. So first off, I suppose I'll ask you, Assemblyman, Assistant Secretary, to share the vision for URP.
All right, no problem. So
And what brought about the changes?
So good evening again to Tobago, good evening Glendora and the whole diaspora. Well, as you know, the unemployment relief program is a wide range. So there are various items within. So it's not just limited to construction work, but there also is the women's program affiliated with it. There's the agricultural sector program affiliated with it, and a whole lot of other itineraries. When I got to the division, Dr. Burris and I, we sat down and we decided we had to push URP in a different direction.
Right.
So in conversation, we decided to align it with the UN 2030 goals, the Human Capital Development Sustainability Program. So there the conversation started and we decided how we are going to go forward. So along with himself and Ms. Abigail Daniel, at that time we started the conversation. What can we do? How can we improve the URP? How can we improve the lives of the persons that are under the URP program? So a number of things came up. So, you know, we decided that what about the implementation of a training program where persons can become certified? Then we also looked at the idea of increases in salary, because when you looked at the salary, the wages of persons in 2022, while going through a pandemic, it was really disgraceful. So we decided that we had to do some things to uplift these workers, to boost their morale. Because when you look at the productivity and the works done by URP, it's second to none. In some cases, it's world class.
Let me play a little bit of an advocate here for you. Do you think that perhaps making the change now with the salary, do you think that that might have been done too quickly? And I'm asking that in the context of their salaries are already low. The increase is a good thing, but it's still low compared. Now, as a politician, you may face a different kind of pressure as opposed to Dr. Burris, who is a technical officer. So at the end of this year, or next fiscal, you may find that those said people may be looking for another increase.
Well, as my grandmother used to say, and Dr. Burris can attest, half a loaf is better than no loaf.
Right.
You're at one level, and you got a tremendous increase that will assist with something more, because persons were living on salaries of $79 per day, and when you look at the increase from $79 to $149, you can do so much more with that if you steer it in the right direction.
Right.
So I don't think persons will have a problem. They are grateful for the increase, and we do look forward to the future as to how we can further increase that, maybe 2-3 years down the road.
Okay, lovely.
And at least I could add to the benefits that they are getting pertaining to the actually the circumstances that have changed, because at one time, you know, they had no sick leave, no arrangement, no vacation arrangement, no persons who are pregnant. There were no consideration for those persons. Right now, the new administration has put those things into place, and therefore that's another big concession. So wheresoever you always just have to work for some money to get direct payment, you have a little concession. You're getting vacation leave now, you're getting sick leave, and you're also having a maternity arrangement.
So, Dr.
Right?
B,
So,
that leads me into my other question, because the last time you were here, that's a conversation you and I had. As a former employee of the division and one who came in when the women's program was around, I remember, you know, having certificates on my desk, and the women actually never came for them. But the intention is good. My question, I suppose, because the Assemblyman said that it was yourself and Abigail Daniel, what was her portfolio in the division?
she was the senior coordinator at the time. But now we have a director of
right.
URP.
So technocrats sat down.
Yeah.
My question is, with respect to the changes, but not necessarily a change in the name, because URP, unemployment relief program, it was meant to be a rotation of 2 to 3 weeks at a time, where you kind of provided relief for those people in the community. So things like benefits, etc., those were never attached to the program because you were never meant to be there. And I reminded you, Dr. B, you know, when I was at work, I remember somebody came and said to me, I come to check on me 15 years of service. And I was like, what 15 years of service? You can't bill service in URP. But what you guys have done now is added, you know, you added the maternity leave, the sick leave, a little vacation leave, and so on, which is good incentives. But how does that work out, given what the program was intentionally meant to do, and the fact that it retains the name URP?
All right. Well, at least the name change, at least the secretary is working on that. We're supposed to be called the Sustainable Development Program because we intend to align it to the Millennium Goals of the United Nations. So it's against that background that, you know, we're trying to ensure that whatsoever we're doing is in alignment with with those goals. And you can see that what is coming out with respect to the women's and operation in and getting certain benefits, that it is in direct alignment with the Millennium Goal for women and young people who are trying to develop themselves. So the point is, we still have a program, we're still working out the details. The fact remains, the program's supposed to be like a 3-year turnover program. That was in mind, that was the thought in mind originally. We now have to align the thinking and the operation itself to meet that kind of operation, because we do not want people to live or to believe that the Sustainable Development Goal is where you're supposed to stay all your life and work, right? So there is some things that we have to tweak in it to ensure that the program turns over.
Okay, so Assistant Secretary Sampson, you are charged with, I suppose, the policy side, changing the name, etc. How does the changes that you envision and you're working towards, how is it affected, or how does it affect the national program? Because URP is in fact a national program, still under the Ministry of Works, if I'm not mistaken. Are we in Tobago operating separate and apart from? Are there any implications for the national program as far as you are aware? Has there been a discussion, I suppose, with the ministry with respect to the changes that you want to make in Tobago and that kind of thing?
Well, Glendora, that's an interesting question. But the thing is, when you look at what is allocated for URP in the national budget, it's approximately $18 million per year. Not half enough to run the program. So we now have to find monies from various areas to sustain the program. So if we have to do such, and it's in Tobago, we are in control of the THA, why not take full control and run it in a direction that we would like to see it sustain the island? Because if we have to find the remaining monies, normally at present it's about 54 to 55 million to run the program per year.
Right.
That's way more than $18 million. So if we have to find the money to do these things, why not make some changes, make some tweaks to it? You
But
know?
I suppose I was asking that more so because much like, negotiations with the PSA, public servants are in Trinidad and Tobago. So when Trinidad URP sees the improvements to Tobago URP, is there room for that being affected? And then it comes back now to the THA to say, well, listen, you all have gone this direction or you're proposing this. This affects us this way. And I'm saying that because something that we in Tobago, I think, tend to take for granted is that a lot of the operations in the THA do in fact have some sort of effect on what is happening in Trinidad. Many of us don't necessarily think about that so much. So nothing is wrong with the idea at all. The idea is good. The name change in itself is good. Does that mean then that we can possibly be implementing a whole new program of the foundation of the URP as opposed to keeping what is the URP per se, so that you don't necessarily, have that kind of issue with what may pop up, may or may not pop up in Trinidad? Because when you talk about sustainable development program, that's the name. Yeah. That is something different to what the URP was. I remember, and I had asked Dr. Burris, this Assistant Secretary, when I heard your announcements and I heard the Chief Secretary speak to the leave and that kind of thing, it stood out to me mainly because as a former employee dealing with URP, dealing with the women's program, I said, but that change is what URP is about. Because we all have family who in URP, and when they start asking you about, okay, where this and where that, and then people start to come and they're demanding more. So I suppose I'm asking about the long-term technicalities and the logistics there as to if you all have worked on that, Dr. B. You're the technocrat here to advise the Secretary.
Right. Yeah, well, at least we have worked on it, and we have in mind a few rollout programs that could enable persons after they leave the URP that they can able to go off and do work, do a private industry or set up a team of workers or a small company, as the case may be. So those are the things that we are working on, to ensure that the persons who are now engaged would find some level of movement out of it in a sustainable way. In that we are trying to make sure that those persons who have graduated, we're going to set up a placement office in the URP. The URP will have a placement office where we are taking out the persons or assisting those persons who have gone through the program and completed the program to get employment in private areas, set up your own company, or work with the state, as the case may be. Right. So that is the rollout. After the training is all over, and we said, listen, your tenure here is complete, but we need to help you forward. Either you set up your own business or set up your own company, or you work with the state, or you get placement in some other private organization.
So those, like the women's program, URP originally had the core employment and so on. If I'm not mistaken, there was the component where we could, as non-government workers, community groups, somebody in a village, write to the secretary or the assistant secretary and say, listen, I could buy some material, but I need some labor. Is that going to be a continued part under the Sustainable Development Program or the changes to URP right now?
No, the good things should remain. Because I'm saying, at least I will encourage the good things to remain, because the secretary will make sure that, listen, if a program is going good, and that particular area, why do you want to change it? You are helping the people already to help sustain their life properly, because it's a sustainable development program. Right. If a person has all the material, they don't have the funds to actually execute the job, it means that the sustainable development program can come in and deal with and assist them. So those are good parts. You don't take away things that are good.
So the secretary will tell us, I suppose, outside of the women's program and that aspect, is there any new component that you're adding? What would the URP / sustainable development program look like in terms of core components under it going forward?
Well, under the training program, we plan to implement different areas added to what we already have. Those are still in the planning stages. We have engaged conversation with MIC recently as to how we can move forward and what other areas we can add to all the programs that we already have. So Dr. B and I, we are still at the processing stage of it, which will be rolled out pretty soon. You know, we don't want to come and say, well, X or Y, and then things don't go as planned.
Yeah.
So, you know, we want to ensure that we have it concreted, and then we will come back to you and indicate what is the progress and what's going on.
Okay, lovely. So what I'm also hearing is that the nature of the training as well seems to be improving if you're engaging MIC and that kind of thing.
Actually, if I could interject here, the point remains the program will have on-the-job training. It will be separated in two segments. The on-the-job training arrangement, where there are some people who would like a little bit academics too, right? So we'll have that on-the-job training part where people are doing their skills, their carpentry, their masonry, etc., etc. And there are some people who definitely cannot take the academics at all. So there will be two types of certificate. One for those persons who only do the on-the-job training, who actually stayed on the job and work because they cannot go into the classroom. So that is why we are engaging MIC now and other organizations that are recognized that can give certificates that to bring those persons who are also on the job and also can take some of the academics, so they can able to do an examination, write an examination, pass it, and get a certificate that can be showed that this person has gone through the training. So it is something that is new, something that is novel, and something that could happen.
So I wouldn't ask the secretary this because this have political pressure on it, but is there going to be that half step to perhaps say to people, after you've passed through this training, maybe 2 cycles maximum, you can't come back into the program? Because, you know, there are some people who are your peers for life, much like you have people in the other programs for life. They're there for a long period of time. I won't ask the assistant secretary this, I'll ask the technocrat. Because what you all are talking about, you're building skills and you're hoping that people move on. I run an NGO. We have programs that run for 12 months. We may give you food, clothing, educational support. After that 12 months, you can't come back and ask for food hampers continually for another 12 months unless maybe a real natural disaster hits you. Can we take younger people from who are coming out of the school system who missed the academic opportunity to perhaps feed into the program?
Yeah, well, that is why you see we have the placement office. That is where we're going to nip some challenges in the bud with respect to employment, because the persons in the placement office will be looking for employment for the persons who are there working and training all the time. So that is where we going to
filtering them out.
Yeah, we're filtering them out.
Okay.
So we're not harsh. The arrangement is not one that is harsh to say, okay, you finish your course, you go but we are still tracking them to ensure that we put them in some position that they can able to continue to benefit from the training and to enable other persons to come and become part of, whether they set up a company, then they will start employing people.
Okay, so,
right? So,
Assistant Secretary, have you been having conversations with the other colleagues who run other divisions in terms of, I suppose, as these people filter out of URP, and you're looking for employment opportunities, maybe entrepreneurial opportunities and so on, is there any sort of interdivision conversation as to, okay, how we can, you know, get these people to a next step that's higher? You're not necessarily going along, you know, the horizontal line, but you're taking a step further. Is there any room for that? Is there any sort of conversation like that at Executive Council level?
Well, that's a conversation we will have sometime soon in the very near future. It's not a conversation at the moment because, as we say, we're still trying to roll out, put things together to ensure that when we do what is required, that the transition is a smooth transition. I know there are probably opportunities in the mainframe of the division as well, so persons can transition from the URP into the mainframe of things.
Right.
So, you know, it's a conversation that will happen sometime in the near future.
Right. And Dr. B, you've been in this thing as a veteran for the entrepreneurial side of it, in terms of building that out, whether it's with a partnership with BDU or Nedco or whomever. How does that look like, I suppose, in your mind right now? Because, you know, one of the issues we've had, we train people to do stuff, but they don't have the business acumen.
Well, actually, what's going to happen, there will be a connectivity between the divisions as the secretary has indicated, but the conversation will go on probably a little later after those bridges are to be crossed, because after you train a person, they say, listen, I want you to start up a small business, because the secretary look at what those persons who are making caskets and making furniture, they are excellent furniture persons there, right? So the key is to have those persons probably, listen, I'm going to start up a small business, right? So now the business unit of the THA will also now kick in to give that person some level of assistance that they could start off the program, right? So it will be a connectivity that will feed upon each other as best we can, and to ensure that those persons who have come through the program and those who are going to start up their small businesses would be sustained.
Okay. I don't know, I'm asking here, kind of a broad question. Does the THA Act or the rules and regulations of the THA allow, I suppose, for the, you know, you mentioned the casket, and I remember one of the first things, even in burying a relative, somebody said to me, we're going by URP to get the casket, and I was like, URP putting union and them out of business because it's cost effective in a sense. It's very good quality. The workmanship of the URP is undeniable. I mean, we've all been proud as to the movements that the URP has made, but if the government is now competing with the private sector, how does that work in terms of building the economy?
It still assists in the sustainable development of the community, because there are some people in the community who cannot really afford the cost of the casket. So if you get the price down a little bit, those people who are mighty and high, they would not come to URP for any casket. See, the people who are really having a challenge on finances mainly will come, right? So therefore, the business of the other union and these, they will continue, but it's just that we're still trying to sustain those persons who have challenges with finances.
And the assistant secretary is a man on the ground. He likes to look out for the grassroots people. You're definitely not putting anybody out of business at this point.
You know, we catering for the low income.
The low income people.
Yeah, the person, because recently it had someone out of in Ireland. They called me, they said, and we understand your RP does casket. I said, yes, and they are wonderfully made. I said, you would love them, but then it was like, nah, we will go with the union or one of these other places to do everything. So they are the persons who can afford, and they would not come to the URP. But they're the persons who definitely, the pocket may not reach that pricing, so they could come where they get something affordable, and we are there to assist.
All right. So let me ask you this, in terms of the business aspect of it, and whether or not this makes sense to you or if it has crossed your mind. We have, in the past, we would buy a bed from URP or a chair set, that kind of thing. Commercial stores then brought in low-cost items that we all know now does mash up in a year time or so. The cheaper it is, no good. Right? URP can be an option. Or can it be an option to provide fairly good quality household furniture to the Tobagonians so that we get away from the having to have a lower budget and buying things that you need to replace every year? Is this something that you have considered at all?
Yes, it is, and in the very near future, we will have a catalog being rolled out, so persons can have the option of coming to URP for quality furniture and quality service, because what we realize, you go buy quartz, you buy a cupboard, within a year it mash up. And URP is doing extreme. And at the URP, we have some excellent carpenters and joiners, and the quality of the material is second to none. So why not come to the URP?
All right.
So with this catalog being rolled out, persons can now come have a catalog, make their order, and then pay for it, and then come and collect.
All right, but as we're talking about the quality material, lumber is not cheap. The good one isn't cheap. How is the division going to maintain getting quality lumber, are you all also engaged in planting specific trees? Where does the lumber come from? Is that a cost that maybe we're not looking at that might be a burden on the division?
Well, at least it's good ideas come from good discussions. And as we roll out, the organic nature of our thoughts will bring other things into being. So therefore, we'll say, okay, the lumber may be too expensive now, or we could start now planting some trees to ensure that we get a good crop of lumber that going forward, right? So all the good ideas we will put into play to ensure that the URP, the Sustainable Development Program, be in alignment with the Millennium Goals, that we can show that there is something meaningful is taking place within the Sustainable Development Program to ensure that Tobago looks equally as good as all the other countries in the world. At least, and the slogan is that
make Tobago the greatest little island.
That is the mantra.
All right, so you heard it there, audience. If you're now joining us, you're looking at 40 Hour, and I have in studio with me the Assistant Secretary in the Division of Infrastructure, Assemblyman Joel Sampson, and Technical and Engineering Advisor in that division, Dr. Burris. We're going to take a short break and come back. We're talking about a futuristic URP, what that looks like and what it means for us here in Tobago. Stay with us.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your nice car get damaged bad, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard, I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you. Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Excel Spa by Haley, where our highly trained staff are ready to deliver the top-class services in facial massages, waxing, nail enhancement, and body treatment. We are ideally located at Coco Avenue, Susolans, Tobago. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TripAdvisor, or you can call us on 730-0149. Excel Spa by Haley. Relax, renew, and rejuvenate.
Our national borders, our first step to security, but a possible access point for guns, drugs, crime. If it does not look right, do the right thing. Call Crime Stoppers anonymously. 800-8477. Report possible border crime.
The Street 919 FM and the Tobago Updates presents the Tobago Updates Morning Show live simulcast on the Street 919 FM. Start your day with all the information you want and need with the simulcast of the Tobago Updates Morning Show live Mondays to Fridays from 7 a.m. on the Street 919 FM, the official station that defends the nation.
We're talking talking about a futuristic URP, that's the Unemployment Relief Program, and the recent changes announced by the Tobago House of Assembly. In studio, we have Assemblyman Joel Sampson, that's the Assistant Secretary in the Division of Infrastructure, and next to him we have Dr. Ellis Burris, the Technical and Engineering Advisor in said division. Certainly you heard about the changes with the salary and so on. We're not having a salary discussion, that's been exhausted. We're having a discussion around what to expect from URP in the future and how will URP positively improve the lives of Tobagonians, including that of the workers that are there. And just to read some comments from the live right now, somebody said, my bed and my dresser was built by URP. It is still the best. Another person said, my niece will be 22 years old and the crib looks brand new still. All right, so you have people on the live attesting to purchasing from URP and being happy even 22 years after. All right, so maybe the supervisors and the workers at URP, you can really take a bow, because I don't think any of us will say that the quality of your work is shoddy. What we're dealing with now is the policy side of things and how the changes would really benefit Tobagonians. Let's talk a little bit about the women's program. As Dr. Burris, you had mentioned, well, the Assemblyman mentioned that the URP, you guys hope to align this to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And as you were saying, women is in fact a key element of that, being a vulnerable part of our society.
Women and girls.
Women and girls. So what will the women's program actually look like? What are you guys thinking about? Now, we know that you're still fleshing out some of the things. So before we get to Dr. Burris, Assemblyman, is there anything in particular, and maybe you could use the media now to try to force your colleagues to agree with you when you get to Executive Council? Any changes? Is there anything in particular
we don't need to force my colleagues at all, because what I envision, they are approved of and they like what they are hearing, especially in the women's program. So as Dr. Burris said, we will roll out some programs where that is concerned in addition to what is already existing. So, you know, we're going to do some courses for the women. So, as he said, we're going to do some sewing, baking, cosmetology, and a lot of other programs within the women's program itself, so that it will benefit the women of Tobago. Because, you know, in some areas, you find young persons saying, we can't get jobs, we don't get anything to do, no money coming in. But if you learn a skill, which is very important, which I can attest to as diploma, you know, learning a skill and having a skill, you can always sustain yourself, sustain your family. You can teach someone else the trade. You can employ someone as well. So this is the hope, and this is what we intend to achieve by rolling out some of these other adventures within the program.
All right, so I guess we're looking forward to see what that would look like. Dr. Burris, with respect to taking the program even a bit further on the entrepreneurial side, you spoke about, you know, is there any particular core areas that you all are hoping to at least start off with, or this is still being fleshed out?
Well, actually, we had a list, entire amount of courses that both male and female could be involved in, right? Some women like agriculture. Some women like, well, they like to be caregivers. Those are some cosmetology. Somebody, you know, they could set up a small company. Okay, we taking care of X amount of persons, and these kind of small projects and programs, because, you know, in the community, you always have elder persons who need to be taken care of, persons who may not be well. So therefore, a group of young ladies having trained on the caregiving program can able to say, listen, let us set up a little arrangement that we can able to take care of these persons, or things like that. So, and the cosmetology program is another one where women always like to look nice. So, you know, the hair, the fingers, the nails, etc., all those things. They will, if you have them trained in that area, they can also set up a little company or a little organization where they can take care of these circumstances for women. So it is not one that would be static. It is one that would be dynamic. So we expect that as the program rolls out, with more things that women can do and also men, the program will become so dynamic that people will be envious of persons who are in that program.
All right. So, in terms of the numbers of people that are in the program, what are the numbers looking like now, Secretary? Do you know how many people are currently employed, at least the last time that you made an announcement and now?
Currently, we have approximately, in the daily paid section, approximately 1,467 employees, to be exact. That figure may fluctuate because, a few persons would have passed on during the pandemic. So, we have to relook into those numbers. On the monthly paid side, it's somewhere in the region about 55.
Okay. In terms of people, has people willingly left the URP, as in they have moved on and gone somewhere else? How does that look like in terms of turnover?
Well, prior to my arrival, I'm not sure if persons would have left voluntarily. But since I'm there, no one has left voluntarily on the daily paid side.
Okay.
I know there are a few persons on the monthly paid side that their contracts would have come to an end. Some of them are currently engaged as month-to-month still. So, all these things we have to look into to ensure that the program continues and it rolls out.
No, I'm seeing a little political bacchanal as you talk about that there. Well, they have restructuring in URP too. I see this is a new thing, restructuring, where people, the engagement ended. Has that happened? Have you restructured, or your team restructured the management side, that monthly paid people, those monthly paid people?
No, Glendora. There is no restructuring at the URP.
I have to ask you. You have to add a little thing to the mix there. Restructured is the new buzzword.
Well, you see, the point is, it is such a challenging situation in the country with employment. You just, there are people who not leave except they get a better job,
right.
And therefore, from what we are seeing, they are laying off. From a national perspective, persons are probably being laid off sometimes. So therefore, people are very happy that they have this. So they're not going to leave until they get a better job, or the administration transfer them because of the quality of work they produce and probably the amount of years they spend. The administration at the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries, and the urban development, be able to move some person from URP into the mainstream of works department where the salary is different, right? But from a general perspective, I know that there have been a small increase in their wage. They would probably stay on until they probably get something better, or unless they have been transferred from there into the mainstream, which is the placement program that we
say
try to.
Small increase in the wage, I like that. Relatively small, yes. One of the things I want to ask, though, with respect to the capacity and what you all envision, Secretary, is the money is always like a bit. National allocation, as you said, 18 million, etc., and THA fits the bill. But now that you all are looking at repurposing, rebranding even, you have a clear vision what you want to achieve. Capacity-wise, in terms of maximum number of workers, employees, for what you want to achieve, does it stay in this 1,000, just over 1,000? Does it go down? Does it go up? What does it look like?
Well, we are hoping that with the rollout of the training aspect of it, as Dr. Burris rightfully said, we're going to ensure that there's a unit set up to push persons into different directions. So with such doing, we are hoping that the numbers would go down. But it would not go down just like that, because we don't want persons to be, as the old people say, out of our bread.
Right.
We have to ensure that we have something in place for them. We have jobs lined up, better jobs as per se, opportunities where they can open their own businesses and employ persons from within the program as well, their colleagues. So, we're hoping that the numbers will go down. And when that happens, then, we could probably bring in a fresh batch to go through the same courses and stuff like that. So it's not about persons having to worry about if after the period they would be sent home. Or it's none of that. We are going to ensure that something is in place, something better is in place for them at the end of the program. Yeah. So that they make a smooth transition from the program.
Seamless transfer of the workers from one point to the next. Okay. And that it will bring greater joy to the heart to know that you've been moved from one area of goodness into an area of betterment.
Have you all had discussions just yet with even the business sector, the private sector? They are always asking about workers, and I remember in the past, Dr. B, I'm sure you remember, they pretty much hated European CPEP because they claimed that those programs took the labor away from them.
Yeah.
Is there a move now to reignite conversations to say, well, okay, we will provide some training and we can filter these people into the workforce?
Well, actually, that's what the placement office is going to do. As I said, we're going to set that placement office up so it can able to interface with the public and also the private sector to ensure that these seamless transfers take place of workers from URP into an environment where they can get something better.
Okay, and in terms of an implementation period, I know the Assistant Secretary don't want to give no timelines at all because the people are going to come and say, listen, Assistant Secretary, on 40 hour, you say we're getting this thing by August. It's September right now, so asking you, the technocrat, what do you foresee? What do you project? We leave in the Assistant Secretary out. What do you project?
The training program?
Yeah, in terms of that placement, you know.
Well, it is going along with the training, right? The training, we actually have the on-the-job training, right? We need to roll out the classroom training also, right? Which we know not all persons who are on the job training will be able to participate in because some people get their concentration span is very small and therefore they cannot able to do certain things. They might be very skillful with their hands, but with respect to writing and do things, they might have a little shortcoming, right? So we are making allowances for everyone. Those who can take the classroom training, we'll make sure they get it, right? But for that part of the program, we have to have trainers. We have to have persons who will be able to train those persons, and that's another avenue where some persons will have to be you have to bring in persons. They will be probably employed to do things in the various training centers that we're going to set up.
Well, somebody on the live here is saying, can you believe there are persons in URP that are well qualified, even with diploma and certificates? Can some of these set people be re-engaged as trainers once they have the experience and the
sure,
the qualifications?
All definitely.
All for the good.
all and sundry are welcome.
Those are the kind of things we need to at least feed upon where we have persons who are already qualified and can do things to able to spread their knowledge or give knowledge or transfer knowledge from themselves to others who may need it.
Right, and this one is for the Assistant Secretary. Somebody is asking, now is the rainy season and a lot of people cannot afford private wakaman. Ridiculous cost. Is there any way that you all can get a team that is dedicated to do those things with a pocket-friendly fee within the villages? So they're asking for URP to perform services like landscaping, etc. Nicing up the yard, cutting the bush.
Well, actually, that's part of one of the programs that we had discussions about.
So it's being considered.
Yeah, so it's being considered. So, you know, as we say, I'm for the low-income man.
Okay.
As they say, I'm the poor people governor.
I hear you. Mine you know, end up like tourism long ago, you know, catering for everybody and then all for long. By
the grace of God, all going to be standing short at the end of the day.
It's a good thing. Dr. B, with respect to the training, just want to come back to that, the training component, and I suppose I'm still trying to understand it because is URP still like a 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off? What's the how does it work right now?
Now, the dynamics of that, I don't have that detail present. I don't know if
Assistant Secretary has
that. I don't have those details.
You don't know how that, okay. Because what I wanted to find out in relation to that is that if people now take up the on-the-job training classroom aspect of it, where either track, you go the academic route or you do, if you are having the break period, do you still show up at a classroom? Do you get paid for that period in the classroom time if you're there? That kind of thing.
Well, I think under the restructuring arrangement, which is this on and off situation might not I don't know because if you have to engage persons to go through a training program, you have to have them engaged for a while. Right? You don't want them to break that knowledge base that they're trying to build.
Right.
So we have to restructure it in such wise that there's a batch of persons that we train in. When that batch is done, they get placement and move forward.
Okay.
Right?
All right. So in a sense, the rebranding will basically have to kind of be effected as well as you roll out. So there will no longer be, or there should no longer be, that sort of break period where you come in and then you go back home and you wait, right?
Except we organize a kind of a crash arrangement where there are some people who are extreme challenges. I know that one time when I was working, when I was at Works as the administrator, and you know, we have some persons who would have serious financial challenges, and they will come and you discuss with them and say, okay, give them about, because they're not probably in the program, they say, okay, give them about 4 or 5 fortnights. Some of them want to actually start up a small business, but they don't have the finances to start it. So they say, okay, give them 6 fortnights, and then you'll let them off, that they could go and start the business. Okay. But I think we in Tobago have to start to think differently, in that, listen, do not try to be too dependent. Try to make sure that you go to a direction where you develop some level of independence. So the thinking has to change also. So you said, okay, you need some finances to do certain things that you can able to improve yourself, improve your family, and go forward. I think the thinking have to change, should be changed, so we can able to assist those persons and they can able to get the finances that they, by working, so they get finances that they can able to start their project or their program that they want to do.
Gotcha.
People have to stop being too laid back. We all have to think together to ensure that we make Tobago the best.
I am wondering, and maybe a bit of a stretch, a fast stretch, in terms of the European, where you're projecting it to go as the Sustainable Development Program. We have a challenge with respect to people possessing the necessary skills and experience to do jobs in the THA, generally speaking. So yes, you're filtering into some places. Can it also, I suppose, take on a look where you're intentionally training people to get into some of the entry-level positions? So, you know, like, as opposed to coming straight out of school and wanting to be directly doing, you know, the big people work, maybe you come in and you do that additional training and you get the on-the-job experience. I don't know if this makes any sense to you at all. The other thing that crossed my mind is that right now we need childcare services throughout the THA. COVID has shown us that. School had to close early when we had the cyclone passing, and the first thing that parents ask, men and women, what may I do with my picnic? Right? And I have to say it like that because we're totally honest. That's the question people ask, what may I do with my picnic? And what the secretary and them worry for do, or what the minister and them worry for do? That's a real question.
Yeah,
can we use the women program, even the men's program, you know, to have people trained as caregivers and maybe dedicated spots, some of the buildings, not so talala, but dedicated spots where there can be some form of childcare, maybe at a reduced fee, because I'm not in favor of doing everything for free, you know, to kind of assist with that. This is me stretching all the program beyond, I suppose, maybe what you want to do or what you have in mind.
Well, it isn't a bad idea at all, you know, but it's something we will look into, because when you think about it, it makes sense. Even not just for the normal child, but for those with special needs as well. Because if you realize in the space, there are hardly persons that deal with children with special needs. And sometimes you see employment opportunities come out and they are circling for a while, they are within the space for a while. That is because we don't have the persons to deal with the children with special needs. So that is something that we can look into most definitely and implement it as part of the program, get the requisite persons who could provide the training, the quality training, so that when persons are trained, they have the knowledge, the expertise and the quality now to deal with these special needs children.
Gotcha. The time flying. The URP has a thriving agricultural component. The women and the men, they've been doing the thing and showing off on social media. Everybody jealous, but we like what they're doing. Is this going to continue? Will it be scaled up? What are your plans for this aspect? Because we need some food in Tobago, but we don't have what is necessary.
Well, right, as I was thinking, and it's a conversation we have to continue to having, we want to align with TADCO. So you know that we boost the agricultural aspect of the program, because with times changing and the pandemic causing problems upon us, we have to see where there's the need for food sustainability. So there we're going, I'm going to have that discussion with the secretary so that we can put things in place so the URP Women's program would be a part of that. It would be a great benefactor so that Tobagonians could benefit from the food sustainability. So we will look to increase the productivity level where agriculture is concerned.
Right. Okay, got you. Yep. My thing is you have to make sure Dr. B and them find, the funding, because we have grand plans, but the funding is always a problem.
At least remember, we also have a division of agriculture too, eh? And,
yes, of course.
And the nice thing,
at least they will provide both technical and sometimes some of the financial process, because they in their program will have some arrangement for food production and food security. So at least you don't have to give it out all to the public, but you can help that program to develop a stronger food production base.
Right. Somebody on the WhatsApp is asking, under the new structure of the URP, will these few persons with qualifications be categorized as tradesmen and be paid as tradesmen, or remain as laborers? So they put in you on the spot there.
In conversations prior, we said we have to set up a unit where we look at all the persons who have the requisite qualifications, and it's time we start placing persons in position where they are qualified for, and not just putting them somewhere because in need of a job. Because too many of times we see persons in position and they don't have the qualifications, and there are persons right there within the department that have the necessary skill set and the qualifications to perform such. So that's something we will look into, and most definitely these persons will be placed where they deserve to be.
All right, and maybe you all can lead the way, and when you publish your list of courses and so on, to help Tobagonians understand, don't just go and study things because they're available. You have to study things that are applicable to the development of the island. We have too many people concentrated in a set of areas that you can't use in Tobago, and then you go by the assemblyman and you're begging for work, and then you vex with him when he can't place it anywhere. But that's
I want to add something again that we have to look into very seriously. You see, agriculture, if you just take the raw material, it would only last approximately, say, 4 weeks. So it's the downstream products that are going to really bring a good turnover. So from that industrial perspective, we'd have to look at things differently to enable the industry of agriculture to grow and develop. Because if I put some bananas on that table, 4 weeks, it ripe and it disappears. If I have a downstream product to deal with it, then it will last 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, as the case may be. So we have to start thinking of industrializing the agricultural products that we have.
Right.
No, I know, that will help. It will help the economy, and it will help to develop jobs for people also.
Well, Dr. B, you're talking about a long-term plan. The Assistant Secretary, he might be dreaming long-term, but he's dealing with a four-year term at a time. Are you all considering, and again, it's a little longer term, but coming back to the funding, the THA is in a peculiar position when it comes to funding. We know that many Tobagonians may not necessarily understand how this works. Is there any sort of thoughts so far specific to the changes you want to see in URP about where we can get additional funding so that we don't necessarily have to via funds within the THA? Is there room for, you talk about modeling the UN Sustainable Development Goals, can there be potential funding coming from the UN, let's say, to modernize some of what you're doing? Is there a possibility for that conversation? Obviously, together with the central government, because the THA has to you know, has to fall in line where this is concerned. That's the legal requirement. Is that something
well,
you're
the
like exploring?
possibilities are all there. When other countries see a two-world country probably assisting or doing certain things to assist their citizens in the best interest of the development of the country, there are some countries would want to inject some funds into it. So it's just that the THA now will have to start looking at those countries who will be interested to fund some of our programs as best as possible so us to develop more rapidly.
Okay. With respect to just going back to the staff again, with the changes that you all are proposing and the discussions that you all are having, have you sat with your core staff, it's a small team in a sense overall, to talk about these changes? What's their reaction like in terms of I mean, everybody happy for a little raise, but outside of that, you know, the work that you really want to do, the direction that you're going into, has there been a conversation with the staff, with the employees of the URP?
Well, prior to that announcement, we held a meeting at Mason Hall Community Center with teams from on the north side, which is part of the majority of the URP. And we had at length discussions about the direction we want to go and how we intend to treat with it and deal with it, and how we expect the productivity level to increase and, you know, be more efficient and be effective. And persons were all in agreement. You know, you could see that their morale was already lifted, their spirits were high because of such announcements. And now that the reality is starting to come true, you can see the change in work ethic, the attitude in workers. So, you know, it's something that it will be good. It will be a good thing. It will work out right. You know, we will get more performance out of the workers. Tobago will benefit more, and we will move ahead to being the greatest little island on the planet. Assistant
Secretary, I think you inherit a good thing, you know, because URP might be one of the only divisions in this space called Tobago that you're trying to make the greatest little island on the planet, who really efficient, doing the work, happy about it, and became proud. I mean, prior to your time, you started seeing the videos and so on. So you're coming in a nice thing and you're raising the level. That's a good thing. That's a good thing on your side. Is there anything, as we wrap up, that you guys did not share about your plans or about the URP that you would like the public to know? And you're going to come back and have your closing statement. Is there anything that you would like the public to know that you didn't share?
Well, the only thing that I share with you, or you be part of the public, is that the funding will come from the URP, but the name, the branding, Sustainable Development Program, which is it would be something from the THA, so to rebrand the product, because the product has some challenges when it's called by a particular name. But if you're rebranding the product to make it, you know, a vibrant operation, you have to rebrand it, and therefore I'm saying the name change. Many of the people who are presently called URP workers, they have welcomed the name change. Okay. As far as I understand, when we were at the program in the meeting that the Assistant Secretary has spoken about at Mason Hall North Side, they were glad to know that the name would be changed to the Sustainable Development Program, and so the rebranding has to start.
Right. So it's sort of like those big businesses. You have a big company, but they have little things on with a name. You know, trading as this.
Exactly.
All right.
Right. So I think that is something that the URP workers are looking for. The present URP workers are looking at their rebranding program, and they could be able to move a little bit braver. They already start to get brave because they get more money in their pocket and they are gaining more recognition, and therefore that is what something will drive the process in a more positive direction.
Okay, right. So, Assistant Secretary, somebody said most of these workers should be used for agricultural purposes so that Tobago can sustain itself with food and pay themselves through sales and export the surplus of their Caribbean neighbor. Just something for you to think about on the live. Is there, before you make your closing comments, is there anything that you want to share, or we should let Dr. B make his closing comments and come to you?
We could let Dr. B make his closing comments.
All right, so we'll have Dr. Morris make his closing comments, and then we'll have closing comments from the Assistant Secretary.
All right. From what I've seen, what is taking place, I'm pleased that the URP program or the Sustainable Development Program is being lifted at a next level, that it is not being kept down and people being frustrated and people do not like the name that they're being called, and you call a name and then you feel people just get depressed. So if they become rebranded as the Sustainable Development Program, they know that they are contributing to the development of Tobago. They are part of the program going forward, where they will be producing more food stuff, where they will be doing a better job for their fellow men, and that for themselves, the dignity that goes along with that. People do not like to probably get handouts or like things for free. People like to work, and when you work, you feel proud of yourself. You build stronger and better self-esteem. Right. So therefore, we just try to encourage our fellow men to be a part of the program, or continue to be part of the program, and to assist themselves and assist their fellow men going forward under this rebranding the Sustainable Development Program.
All right, and we'll have the closing comments from the Assistant Secretary.
Well, I just want to close by saying that with the rollout of this program, it's intended to give persons a hand up and not a handout. You know, if the more persons you empower, they can empower other persons, and thus helping us reach the level and attain the success that we require. I must thank the workers, the hard-working workers at the URP, for their dedication and commitment thus far, for the support given to me since my time there. I must say that it's a pleasure working along with them. They deserve all the praise, because they are the ones that are getting the work done. We are just the policy makers. We just try to put things in place for betterment for them. You know, it's a transition. You know, it's going to be a smooth one. You know, I just encourage each and every one of them to, you know, up their standards some more, as they have done in the past few weeks. I also want to thank the people of Tobago and the people of Bonaccord Crown Point for entrusting me with the opportunity to look after their needs and to represent them. The kind of representation that I've brought in the past 6 months, it will continue, and the standard will only get higher. So persons at URP, you have a lot to look forward to in the coming months, over the next few years that I'm here. And hopefully at the end of it all, you will give me another opportunity based on the production and performance.
Thank you very much. Spoken like a true politician. Hey, minding his business. Listen, thank you very much. We've had in the studio for the hour Assemblyman Joel Sampson, affectionately known by the Tobagonians and his constituents as Nazi, or the plumber. All right, that's the Assistant Secretary in the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development. And with him, we had Dr. Ellis Burris, the Engineering and Technical Advisor to the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development. We have been discussing the URP, the future of the URP, what that looks like, what it means for Tobago. If you missed the program, you can go back on the Tobago Updates page and view the program again. It's on YouTube as well. Wherever you want to look at it, go in and take a look, and you can make your remarks or send your comments. I am Glendora Lashley. Good night.